Hey, I'm Chris. This is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my predictions for UFC 196, Verdun versus Miocic, which happens on February 6th. But before I get into that, I'd like to plug my own author's website at www.chrismoldong.com. I am an aspiring author specializing in the fantasy genre. And on my website, you can check out the Writer's Talk web series, which is just me talking about writing. Check out updated blogs, they're updated weekly. Free short stories, and you can also buy stories for sale as well. Also, you can support me by buying my book, The Mustard Prince in the Condiment Kingdom, for $8.95 on my website. So please check that out. It's a really fun action adventure fantasy novel that I think that any reader or even non-readers will enjoy. So let's get started. So we got a change in the main event. It's supposed to be Velasquez versus Verdun 2. Now Velasquez is out due to a back injury. So Stipe Miocic is now filling in on short notice. It is an interesting style matchup. If I were to describe this card, I would describe it as action fights. The main card doesn't have. I mean, you have ranked fighters for sure, but like they're not like I don't get the impression that if Benavidez wins, for example, he'll get a title shot against Demetrius. OSP still, a couple wins away from that. Hendricks maybe a title shot, but it's really tough to say. Nelson versus Rosholt, no, it's not there. You know, if a guy like Thompson wins, that can open some eyes for sure. Someone like Makovsky wins, that can be open up some eyes for sure. But I'd say at most fun action fights. There are some pretty good prospects on this card. Lahat, even though he's 31 years old, he only has 10 fights. He's a good prospect. He's kind of at the tail end of prospectism, though. Borg versus Justin Scoggins, two very young prospects there. Alex White's pretty decent, raw prospect. Mickey Gall versus Mike Jackson. I mean, if Mickey Gall wins, he's a 23-year-old prospect training out of Miller Brothers MMA. He gets to fight CM Punk. Misha Cirkunov, he is one of the top light heavyweight prospects out there. And he's fighting a prospect in a very raw prospect in Alex Nicholson. It's really hard to find light heavyweights in their 20s. So that alone makes you a prospect. Derrick Lewis, kind of a prospect, kind of not anymore. So, you know what? Let's just get started. In the main event, we have Fabricio by Verdun versus Stipe Miocic for the UFC heavyweight title. Okay, Stipe Miocic, 14-2 record, 10 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. 33 years old, he's 6'4", on a 2-fight win streak, training out of Strong Style Fight Team. He is taking this fight on short notice. It's actually today that it was announced that Stipe is going to take this fight. Who knows when he found out, though. And February 6th is just 2 weeks away. Miocic has his best. Good boxer. Uses combinations well. Most recently knocking out Andrei Arlovski. He also moves well for his size. His wrestling is solid. And he has good ground and pound. Actually ground and pounded Mark Hunt to TKO stoppage. And he's pretty resilient too if you watch his fights against like Junior Dos Santos, for example. Real resilient guy. He's a guy that's always in the fight. Fabricio Verdun, 20-5 record with 1 draw. 6 wins by KO or TKO, 10 wins by sub. 38 years old, 6'4", on a 6-fight win streak, training out of King's MMA. And he is the current UFC heavyweight champion. He is a top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. So, he guillotined Cain Velasquez in the last fight. He can take the back wall. He has a great triangle. He has a great arm bar. If he's on top, he's passing to mount. He's passing to dominant positions. Whatever position he's in, he knows what to do and do it very well. His stand-up is actually one of the greatest improvements I've seen. It's something that Cordero's really good with these, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners. his Verdun's Muay Thai's improving. He has good kicks, really solid knees, especially from the clinch, and he's shown to have a really good chin too. The other thing that Verdun does mid-fight is he likes to taunt his opponent. So this fight was supposed to be Verdun versus Velasquez too. I actually picked I would have picked Velasquez to win that one. This one's an interesting stylistic matchup, I gotta say, because Stipe's solid. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. He is really good, good wrestler, good striker, big for the weight class, good cardio. I mean, resilient guy. I can, when I see the stylistic matchup, I see Stipe having the better hands than Verdun. I see Verdun having the better kicks and knees from the inside, though. I don't know if Stipe is going to want to take the fight to the ground for fear of getting, say, guillotined and or dealing with Verdun's ground game. However, Mark Hunt went there. He survived in Verdun's guard, pinned it, get a guy, anyone who's on their back, pinned their head up against the cage. You really eliminate their way of like moving side to side, swiveling their hips. That's. So even against top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, guys have been able to neutralize them. So I kind of wonder if maybe Stipe won't be afraid to go there. Hey, what does he have to lose? He's taking the fight on short notice, right? So he might mix in some of his wrestling. Like I said, both have shown some pretty good chins. I mean, it's kind of funny that it was Stefan Struve who knocked out Miocic. I think Miocic was beating him pretty bad this time around. And the only time Verdun got knocked out was against, Junior Dos Santos. So this one's tough because the fact of the matter is, I can see Miocic hitting Verdun clean. I really can. I think that's a very real possibility, and I can see him doing it consistently. Like I said, he's a solid boxer, and I'd argue that Miocic's a better boxer than Verdun is. Verdun might have more variety and maybe a better Muay Thai practitioner than Miocic. I don't think that's too unfair to say, especially, Verdun's kicks and knees have looked really solid as of late. But nonetheless, I'm liking what I see out of Verdun. I think that, Miocic's taking this fight on short notice. But hey, they're heavyweights, man. I mean, one punch ends it all. Stipe is not the heaviest handed guy. And actually, that goes for the same with Verdun. These guys do have knockouts, a good amount of knockouts, but, I don't necessarily think of these guys as a one-punch KO type of guy. More of a beat them down and then KO or TKO them type of guy. More so than just one-punch lights out type of thing. For both of them, actually. Not to say they don't hit hard, because they do. And the records actually show it too. But I like the variety of Verdun here. I like that he's not taking the fight on short notice. I kind of wonder what the ground game's going to look like here. Both around the same size. They're both 6'4". That's going to be very interesting too, actually. Whereas Velasquez is shorter than Verdun. I think Miocic might actually be able to fight Verdun at range. It's tough for me to say. At least in boxing range. That's where he's comfortable with. So, real interesting fight. Ultimately, I'll go Fabricio Verdun. I want to even call a finish, but I'll go the safe route. Fabricio Verdun by decision. Excuse me. Next fight after that, Johny Big Rig Hendricks fights Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Stephen Thompson, 11-1 record, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub at 32 years old. He's going to be the taller fighter at 6 foot. He's on a 5-fight win streak. He has that karate-style stand-up, and with that comes good lateral movement. And I say this with a lot of guys who have traditional martial arts backgrounds that go into MMA, very accurate striking. Stephen Thompson's no exception to that rule. Thompson's got some really good kicks, and he uses a lot of them too. He actually knocked out Jake Ellenberger in his last fight. I really watched that fight with a spinning wheel kick. Two of them. He managed to hit him twice with two different spinning wheel kicks. The other thing with Thompson, his grappling's improving, his overall wrestling, offensive wrestling's improving, and his takedown defense has greatly improved as well. Johny Hendricks, 17-3 record, 8 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. 32 years old, he's 5'9", training out of Team Takedown. Right now he's training wins and losses, most recently beating Matt Brown. He is a former UFC welterweight champion. He's a strong wrestler and has all those accolades you want. His top control is really good. When he fought Matt Brown, takedown, top control all day. His takedown defense is solid. He's also really strong, too. Real compact, real strong guy. His kickboxing is improving. He has that really well-known left hand, but he does actually strike in combination. However, a couple things work against him. The last time he fought was actually March of 2015. So he'll be out for 11 months. And he has had issues making weight, and that has affected his performance in the past. Out of all the fights on this card, this was actually the one that was the very last one for me to pick. I had a hard time picking this one the most because part of it's a gut feeling. I'll admit it. So the thing is, I like what I see out of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I think that him having a hands-down style and moving laterally is takedown defense in of itself. I think his ability to get back to his feet when he's taken down has gotten a lot better. And he's an accurate striker. I'm very curious to see how someone like Johny Hendricks, who tends to move in a straight line, is going to deal with someone like Thompson. It does worry me with Thompson that he has been hit clean. Like Ellenberger managed to wobble him. You know, if Hendricks does that, lights out, you know. However, I think stylistically, this might be pretty tough for Hendricks. I think he might have a hard time taking him down. It's very argumentative, obviously. I mean, this is a great wrestler right here. If he has him up against a cage, I'm really curious to see if he can take him down. I'm very curious if he can keep him down. In the stand-up, I don't really know who's better, but like I said, I like the lateral movement and accuracy of Stephen Thompson here. I would assume that Johny Hendricks is the favorite. I was kind of going back and forth with this pick, originally picking Hendricks. I'm going to go, I don't look at the odds, but I'm assuming Hendricks is that favorite. I'm going to go Stephen Thompson to win this one by decision. I think that he can pick him apart from the outside, use his movement to evade strikes and defend takedowns. And I also like the momentum of Stephen Thompson. He's on a 5-fight win streak, and he looks like he's just getting better and better. Hendricks right now is kind of at a win one, lose one type of deal. Technically, if you want to, I'm not going to base my whole pick on that, but he did win against Matt Brown, so if he's sticking with that pattern, he should lose the next one, right? But, no, really, like I said, I'm not super confident in this pick. I see avenues for Hendricks to win, and originally I picked Hendricks to win this one. Ultimately, Stephen Thompson for the win by decision. Next fight after that, Roy Big Country Nelson fights Jared the Big Show Rosholt. Rosholt has a 14-2 record, 4 wins by KO or TKO, 3 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO or TKO. 29 years old, he's 6'2", so he's a taller fighter on a 3-fight win streak, training out of Team Takedown. Excuse me. He is a grinder. He's got some really strong wrestling, though. When he gets on top, the problem is he's not the most active. He has good top control, but he'll sit in your half guard. He won't really try and pass to like a dominant position. When he fought Rochelle in his last fight, he would get side mount and not do much. He wouldn't really do anything with that. He does have a good clinch, and I'd say an average at best stand-up. His stand-up defense, though, is not very good, and he does not take it. Rosholt does not take a hit well. You can watch the Derrick Lewis fight, knocks him out. Tony Johnson almost knocked out Jared Rosholt. He's a guy that generally gets hit. Alexei Olenek just knocked him out cold. Yeah, so Roy Nelson, 20-12 record, 13 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO. 39 years old, he's 6 foot on a 3-fight losing streak. He's only won 1 of his last 6 fights. He is an Ultimate Fighter winner, a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Stand-up's actually good. Everyone knows him for his right hand, and they should, because that right hand has been his money punch, and he's gotten a lot of one-punch KOs with that right hand. But he will throw the left, and he actually has shown a pretty decent leg kick, too. His chin is really good. This guy is tough as nails. His cardio, though, is not that great. Rosholt's actually isn't that great either. So, this really comes down to, what do you think? Is Rosholt going to be able to take Nelson down and grind out the decision? Or does Nelson knock him out with the big right hand? I mean, really, I don't really know if there's many other avenues for these guys to win outside of that. Like, see if Nelson gets a knockout or Rosholt gets the grinding decision victory. The one time I've seen Nelson, I usually don't see Nelson get too controlled on the ground. When he loses, it's usually into stand-up, actually. The only time he got controlled on the ground, I mean, Daniel Cormier's managed to take him down. I think Stipe managed to take him down. But the crux of those fights were into stand-up. Frank Mir managed to take him down when he had that walking pneumonia consistently. So, I wonder if Rosholt might even have a hard time taking him down because he has such a low center of gravity. He's a shorter fighter. Might be hard to grab onto those legs. So it's tough for me to call because, like I said, it's going to go one way or the other, you know? Rosholt definitely has momentum on his side right now, too. However, I'm going to go with Roy Nelson to win this one. One thing about Rosholt, he does get hit. He does get hit hard in a good amount of his fights. And like I say, he doesn't take a punch well. So I got to go with Roy Nelson to win this by knockout. Next, we have that Rafael Cavalcante fights OSP Ovince Preux. Okay, Cavalcante, 12-6 record with 1 no contest, 11 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub. Has those 4 losses by KO or TKO. 35 years old, he's 6 foot on a 2-fight losing streak. He's only won 1 of his last 5 fights, trains out of Team Nogueira and X-Gym. He's a former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion. At his best, he's a legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt with really strong Muay Thai. Strong knees, heavy-handed. However, his cardio is shown to be really weak. I mean, this is a guy that can't even go through 1 round anymore without looking tired by the end of the first round. And his chin has seemed a bit suspect as of late. I think his issue is not skill. I think it's more mental. I think he kind of mentally breaks when fights aren't going his way. Ovince Preux, 18-7 record, 9 wins by KO or TKO, 5 wins by sub. 32 years old, he's a taller fighter at 6'3". His stand-up's good. He has a particularly good left hand, and it's really heavy-handed too. However, he can get a bit wild about it sometimes with his stand-up, and he can get off balance at times. He can run. Sometimes he'll run at his opponent and throw a strike. His wrestling is actually pretty solid. His overall grappling is improving. The main thing about OSP, though, is he is just strong and athletic. When he's on the ground off his back, he can kind of athlete his way back to his feet, for example. Explode back to his feet. He's more of like an explosive movement type of guy. With that said, the thing with Cavalcante is, skill-wise, at his best, there's nothing wrong with the guy. He's a good wrestler. His takedown defense is actually solid. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Heavy hitter, good Muay Thai. He has everything going for him. But man, his conditioning has looked bad as of late. Real bad. His cardio looks terrible. His just on the eye test, his fitness does not look good, and I don't think he takes a hit very well. Ovince St. Preux, he's a more athletic guy. He hits hard. He's still a solid fighter. Um, I think Ovince St. Preux probably has a better cardio, and I think he can touch Cavalcante enough to get the KO or TKO stoppage here. So Ovince St. Preux by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Joseph Benavidez fights Zach Fun-Size Makovsky. Makovsky, 19-6 record, 1 win by TKO, 6 wins by sub. He also has 3 losses by submission. 33 years old, training out of Philadelphia Fight Factory. He is trading losses and wins right now. However, I thought he should have probably got that win over John Dodson. He was actually doing really good in that fight too. He is a former Bellator bantamweight champion. Strong wrestler, particularly good single leg takedown. Strong in his scrambles. His stand-up's solid. His cardio is really good. However, biggest thing against Makovsky is he's just not a finisher. Joseph Benavidez, 23-4 record. 6 wins by KO TKO, 9 wins by sub, 31 years old. On a 4-fight win streak, training out of Team Alpha Male. He is a strong wrestler, really good in the scramble. He has a particularly good guillotine, and his stand-up has been improving. He kind of throws a bit wildly, though, when he throws his hands. But he has been shown to be a bit heavy-handed, and his cardio is pretty good, too. It's an interesting style matchup, I gotta say. Both of them have that Russell boxer, frenetic style type of thing going. Makovsky's a really underrated wrestler, too. I actually think that Makovsky could get takedowns on Benavidez. The one thing I cannot see Makovsky do is finish Benavidez. Makovsky, though, to his credit, he's a tough guy to finish himself. As good as Benavidez has looked, I don't think Benavidez could get a finish on him. So, this one's really hard for me to call. Both have fought some really good level competition. Benavidez just a little higher level competition than Makovsky. But, yeah, one thing about Benavidez, he seems to be that eternal number 2 guy. If, like, Demetrius Johnson wasn't the champion, Benavidez probably would be the champion. So, with that said, I am going to go with Joseph Benavidez to win this by decision. I think it's pretty close. I don't think anyone has like a true edge in any one aspect of the fight. I think Benavidez has good stand-up, but Makovsky's stand-ups has greatly been improving. I like what I see from it. Wrestling, I think it's a bit equal. I actually kind of like Makovsky's wrestling a little better than Benavidez's. Both are good scramblers. I'd argue that Benavidez has the better jiu-jitsu, arguably, but even then, at most I'd say that Benavidez has a better guillotine. So maybe I should even scratch that. Benavidez has a better guillotine. So close fight for me. I can see Makovsky getting the decision victory. Ultimately, though, I gotta go with Benavidez. I think that he's the heavier hitter, so I think that favors Benavidez here. Otherwise, yeah, tough for me to call because they are kind of the same, different but the same in an essence. Okay, on to the Fox Sports 1 prelims. Josh Burkman fights KJ Nunes. Burkman, 27-12 record with 1 no contest, 7 wins by KO TKO, 10 wins by sub. Also has 7 losses by submission. 35 years old on a 2-fight losing streak. Trains out of Pit Elevated. I'm not too sure what weight class this is because I know Nunes has been fighting at 170 so far, but Burkman said he wanted to cut down to 155, so not too sure. Burkman's stand-up's good. He's actually pretty heavy-handed. And his wrestling's actually not too bad. His grappling's been improving as of late. Of course, he submitted Fitch, but yeah, he has a couple flaws in his game too. Sometimes he'll just not throw anything. I don't really like that. He has, I guess, bouts of inertia is what it's called, where he just kind of sits there, doesn't really throw offense sometimes. Um, he can also be a bit content to play in another fighter's wheelhouse. Excuse me. It's kind of how he lost like Steve Carl, for example. So, but the thing with KJ Nunes, he has a 13-8 record with 1 no contest, 9 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by decision, 2 losses by submission. 33 years old. He's a good boxer. He uses jab well, and he actually uses body punches well too. His takedown defense is actually not too bad. When he's on his back, though, he doesn't really have much of anything. And he also got choked out by Alex Cowboy Oliveira quite easily. One thing about Nunes, too, is I don't know if he's taking MMA as seriously as he once was. I gotta wonder if his move up to 170 is more of he doesn't want to cut weight more so than anything else. I just read reports that I think he has another job too outside of fighting now. I don't know if these reports are true or not, but I don't really get the impression that KJ Nunes is totally into it, into fighting these days. So, but this one's tough for me to call because Nunes has a way of surprising me. And Burkman, honestly, his UFC tenure has not looked very good. Um, you know, but nonetheless, I'm going to go Josh Burkman to win this one by decision. I can't really say why per se. That's the problem. It's not like I don't know if he's going to outstrike Nunes. I think Burkman can mix it up a little better than Nunes. Burkman also likes to just play in another guy's wheelhouse. I get the impression that Burkman might just want to box with Nunes all day, and that could be a tough thing. So, yeah, real tough for me to call, but I'll go with Burkman by decision. But like I said, and also I don't know where Nunes is head at. Nunes is his head at is as far as fighting goes too. Next fight after that, Damian the Polish Pitbull Grabowski fights Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. Okay, Grabowski, 20-2 record. 6 wins by KO TKO, 11 wins by sub. 35 years old. He's the shorter fighter at 6'1". It's his first fight in the UFC, and he last fought in November 2014. I did watch one of his fights, pretty recent one against Kenny Garner. I actually didn't really like too much of what I've seen from him, though. He does have good clinch striking, like knees from the clinch. His Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game is really strong. I have in that fight, he actually went for like a Kimura and lost position because of it. He did get a nice arm triangle with Kenny Garner and won. His stand-up, though, looked average, and also he had a really big problem of just allowing his opponent to initiate the clinch on him almost all the time. Derrick Lewis, 13-4 record with 1 no contest, 12 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. He also has 2 losses by KO TKO, 30 years old, he's 6'3", trading wins and losses, most recently beating Victor Pesta. He has some good boxing, some ridiculously heavy hands, so this guy has stupid power. I mean, it is just ridiculous. His ground and pound is devastating because he has such ridiculous power in his strikes. His grappling skills are pretty weak, though. It's a bit laughable, actually. At times, like he'll just. I remember he had a good position for an arm triangle one time, and he just straight flats out abandons it. He's just like, man, I don't know. Like you can kind of tell that he doesn't really know what he's doing on the ground sometimes. However, he's actually shown a pretty decent ability to get back to his feet when he's taken down. This is an interesting matchup because I see it as a striker versus grappler. I can actually see Grabowski taking Lewis down. Here's the thing with Lewis, though, that you should know. He's real resilient. This is a guy that keeps fighting until the final bell. Watch his fight. He fought like Jared Rosholt at the regionals. He was losing that fight, and then around like that third round or something like that, knocks him out. Like it's just like Victor Pesta taking him down all day. Third round, knocks him out. So this is a guy that has dealt with guys who wanted to just grapple with him, and he's managed to outlast them, and his power carries over late into the rounds. I also think that Derrick Lewis is going to be the much bigger fighter. He seems like a more legit, like heavyweight, whereas Grabowski looks like a guy that might actually be able to cut down to 205. I don't think Grabowski's been knocked out, but Derrick Lewis has the power to do so. So I'm going to go Derrick Lewis to win this one by KO or TKO. Like I said, I think Lewis is just really strong. I think Grabowski might have a problem with the strength advantage that Lewis has. And the stand up, Lewis's powers it's tough to deal with. So Derrick Lewis by KO or TKO. Next fight after that, Mike Quicksand Pyle fights Sean Spencer. Pyle, 26-11 record with 1 draw, 6 wins by KO or TKO, 16 wins by sub. He also has 5 losses by KO or TKO and 4 losses by sub. He is 40 years old. He's going to be a taller fighter at 6'1" on a 2-fight losing streak. Excuse me. Trains out of Syndicate. He's only won 1 of his last 4 fights. He is a veteran, though. Veteran Joe. He's very experienced, really strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills off his back or on top. Real crafty on the ground, too. His wrestling's actually pretty good. He managed to take down like Rick Story a couple times. He's taken down Hathaway. He actually has some pretty good wrestling, especially from the clinch. And his stand-up's actually not too bad. He has some decent knees, good punches, has some pop in his strikes. However, his chin has seen better days. Sean Spencer, 12-4 record, 2 wins by KO or TKO, 2 wins by sub. That's has 2 losses by submission. 28 years old. He's going to be 5'10". He trains out of Octagon MMA. And he last fought in January of 2015. That was in that fight against Cavalcante that most found to be the robbery of the year. He's a good boxer. He throws combinations well, and his takedown defense actually isn't too bad. This is an interesting fight because I think Pyle's much better than Spencer on the ground. I think he can hang in the stand-up, but I don't think he can take the punches very well. Spencer, I thought he should have won the Cavalcante fight. He actually dropped him too. So he's shown a bit more power in his strikes. He had a really good fight against the Dominican Nightmare. And this is just a guy that has a pretty high work rate too. I think he'll be able to touch Pyle. He might even wobble him. It wouldn't actually surprise me if he does drop him, because Pyle's chin just isn't that good anymore. And he's much older too. So with that said, nonetheless, though, I am going to go with Sean Spencer to win this one. I think he can outwork Pyle. I think he can actually land clean on Pyle eventually. So yeah, Sean Spencer. But I don't know if he can get that knockout, so Sean Spencer by decision. Next fight after that, Misha Cirkunov fights Alex the Spartan Nicholson. Nicholson, 6-1 record, 5 wins by KO or TKO, 1 win by sub, 25 years old, 6'4" on a 5-fight win streak. It's his first fight in the UFC. I managed to watch 1 fight of his. It's a pretty recent one. He is raw. Just a really raw talent. Everything looks like it's developing. Like, I remember, I was seeing his stand-up, and it's like, okay, he can throw a punch ball, and then he'll kind of jump to throw a punch, and I don't think it's a Superman punch. I think he's just kind of raw, and it's just everything's kind of new to him. He's shown to be a bit heavy-handed. I saw him on the ground against, I forgot who the opponent's name is. He did lose positions in the grappling phases of the fight. And also, Nicholson also seemed a bit hittable, too. Misha Cirkunov, 10-2 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 4 wins by sub. That's has 2 losses by submission. 28 years old, he's 6'3" on a 5-fight win streak, training out of Extreme Couture. I'm going to say this now. I think Misha Cirkunov is one of the top prospects at light heavyweight. He has strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, really good wrestling, really good clinch takedowns especially. His stand-up, though, is average at best. It's definitely one of his weakest areas, and he's really good at taking the back, too. I got to go with Misha Cirkunov to win this one by submission. I think he can take down Nicholson quite easily. I think Nicholson might actually punch his way into the clinch, where Cirkunov should thrive. I think Cirkunov can get the dominant positions and get the submission. So, Misha Cirkunov by submission. Okay, on to UFC Fight Pass prelims. Mickey Gall fights Mike the Truth Jackson. Okay, so here are the stakes. Mickey Gall wins. Most likely, he's going to fight Phil CM Punk Brooks. Excuse me. If Mike Jackson wins, we don't know what happens. Okay? That is how crazy and weird this bout is. Mike Jackson, no pro MMA bouts. I should actually recheck his amateur record because I know Sherdog said 0-1 amateur record, but I actually I managed to watch a fight of Jackson's, and it wasn't on the Sherdog database. So what I saw, he's 30 years old and he's pretty tall at 6'2". It's his first fight in the UFC. So what I saw in that amateur bout was an outside boxer. I mean, he didn't kick at all. I didn't see much of any grappling here. He pretty much just kind of moved around, threw a jab, threw a left hook or a right cross, and that was it. He used his length really. His hands were kind of low. His coach had to keep telling him to keep his hands up. It seems like he kind of uses his length as his only means of defense because he did get hit a couple times. Mickey Gall, 1-0 pro MMA record, 2-0 as an amateur, with his pro win being by sub. He's 23 years old. Dana White kind of found him in I don't know if it's looking for a fight or one of his reality shows that he does. But pretty much Mickey Gall called out CM Punk after his win. Gall trains out of Miller Brothers MMA, and it's his first fight in the UFC. I did not find any footage of him fighting in MMA. The only footage I can find of Mickey Gall was him in a grappling tournament. You know, he went for a takedown, looked pretty good. He actually tried really hard to get a guillotine. I think Gall actually ended up losing. He was on the bottom and he stayed on the. His opponent managed to keep him on the bottom, and I believe Gall lost. But I don't know much about these guys. It's really tough to say how this fight's gonna go. It's a coin flip. Unless there's more footage available, it's just a guess. I do like that Mickey Gall trains out of Miller Brothers MMA. Jim and Dan Miller, solid fighters, very experienced. So he trains at a pretty decent camp, still young. I'll go Mickey Gall to win this one by submission. I don't know anything about Jackson's ground game. So, Mickey Gall by submission. But, coin flip, honestly, this is based on very, very little information and actual fight footage. Next fight, Artem, the Russian Hammer Lobov fights Alex the Spartan White. Lobov has an 11-11 record with 1 draw and 1 no contest. 4 wins by KO TKO, 2 wins by sub. Has his 2 losses by submission. He's 5'9", so he's a shorter fighter. Trains out of SBG Ireland with Conor McGregor. So I watched this fight against Eric Fisher. So this was before The Ultimate Fighter. I didn't really want to watch the Ryan Hall fight because I really can't get any information about Lobov's skills watching the Ryan Hall fight because he was just in utter defense the whole fight. But just like in The Ultimate Fighter, he has a hands-down style of stand-up. He doesn't really have much head movement to go with it. I remember Eric Fisher in that first round managed to actually head kick him, and he dropped him, and some refs may have even stopped the fight. Um, One other thing about Lobov, he seems to be more of a counter striker than a guy that goes first. Sometimes I'll go first, but for the most part, it seems like he's waiting a lot of times. His takedown defense isn't very good, though. He got taken down quite a bit by Hall. Sometimes he'll overextend himself. Eric Fisher was able to take him down quite consistently. It's okay if a guy does a bad shot or something like that, but otherwise, it wasn't that great. I do like that with Lobov, he uses body strikes. He has a really good kick to the body and punches to the body as well. Alex White, 10-2 record, 4 wins by KO TKO, 5 wins by sub. 27 years old, he's 6 foot on a 2-fight losing streak and last fought in December of 2014. He is big for 145. His stand-up's alright. It can be pretty wild at times. He can be something of a brawler, but he is really heavy-handed. His stand-up defense isn't very good. You can watch his fight against like Lucas Martins, where he gets knocked out, or his fight against Clay Collard, which is really sloppy. Actually, he does have some pretty decent offensive takedown ability, but his overall ability on the ground is pretty bad, to be honest with you. It looks very raw on the ground. With that said, this one's tough for me to call. I've just been relatively unimpressed with Artem. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how his style is gonna work in the UFC. I don't have much hope that it's gonna work that well in the UFC. Alex White, for all his flaws, especially defensively, he's really aggressive. Jeez. Sorry. Really aggressive guy. He hits hard. He's gonna be the bigger fighter here. I can see him eating a counter punch real easily though. That's the problem with White. He said really bad defense. Actually, the guy has no defense. But like even Lobov, jeez, Lobov, he doesn't have the best defense either. So with that said, I'm gonna go with Alex White to win this one. Um, I'll go by decision, but tough for me to say. Next fight after that, Ray, the Tez Mexican Devil fights. Uh, Ray, the Tez Mexican Devil Borg fights Justin Tank Scoggins. So Scoggins, 10-2 record, 6 wins by KO TKO, 1 win by sub. 23 years old. He's going to be the taller fighter at 5'7". He has a karate-style stand-up. Really good kicking game. Pretty accurate striker, too. His wrestling's pretty solid, and his ground and pound's pretty good as well. The few times I've seen him off of his back, though, he hasn't looked very impressive. Against, like, Dustin Ortiz, he was on his back for long periods of time. I want to even say when he fought, like, Sampo or something like that, he didn't look that great. He got taken down, didn't look that great off his back. Ray Borg, 9-1 record, 1 win by TKO and 6 wins by sub. At 22 years old, he's 5'4" on a 3-fight win streak. Trains out of Fit NHB with the likes of Tim Means. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills, especially his back control. When he fought his last fight against Gene Herrera, he was on top of half guard, and he was always threatening with like a guillotine, a Kimura, or just a guard pass. He'd always like shift between like the three things or whatnot. He has really good ground skills, really good scrambler, and like I said, his back take is awesome. Good wrestler. His stand-up's good too. It's probably the weakest part of Borg's game, easily, but it's good. It's just not great or anything like that. This one, I like both these guys. As prospects, I think they're both really good flyweight prospects. Still really young. Around the same level of experience, too. Both train at good camps. I think Scoggins is. I don't know. I know he was training at ATT for a while. Not too sure where he's training at these days. With Borg, if it turns out Fit NHB. I think Borg though can get the takedowns going on Scoggins. Um, and I think he can keep him there uh, enough. Scoggins I think has a better stand up, but he's a guy that will lose rounds. He let the Dustin Ortiz fight kind of slip away from him, and even in his last bout, I want to say it was against Sampo. I think he gave up that third round too. So yeah, I'm gonna go Ray Borg to win this one. Probably by decision. I think Borg can take him down and work his ground game. I can see at best Scoggins being on defense. But Borg can get the finish. He is really good, but I got a safe pick and go with the decision. And finally, Noad Neo Lahat fights Diego Pitbull Rivas. Rivas, 6-0 undefeated record, 1 win by TKO, 3 wins by sub. 24 years old. He last fought Rodolfo Rubio back in November of 2014. I rewatched that fight, and there isn't a lot to like about Rivas. Below average stand up, in my opinion. His jeez, his grappling, um, his grappling looked good, but at best it was like him on top control. He didn't do much. He just looked painfully average, kind of everywhere. His stand up actually didn't even look that great. Top control looked decent. Noad Lahat, 9-1 record, 2 wins by KO Tico, 4 wins by sub. 31 years old on a 2-fight win streak, training out of AKA. He has some strong Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. On top or off his back. He has good judo too. He uses good judo takedowns to get his opponents to the ground. And his stand-up's actually been slowly but surely improving as well. I like what I see from Noad Lahat. I think he can get this fight to the ground and get the sub. So Noad Lahat by submission. Okay, to recap the main card. Fabricio Verdun over Stipe Miocic by decision. Stephen Thompson beating Johny Hendricks by decision. Roy Nelson over Jared Rosholt by KO or TKO. Ovince Preux over Rafael Cavalcante by KO or TKO. Joseph Benavidez beating Zach Makovsky by decision. On the Fox Sports 1 prelims, I have Josh Burkman over KJ Nunes by decision. Derrick Lewis beating Damian Grabowski by KO or TKO. Sean Spencer over Mike Pyle by decision. Misha Cirkunov over Alex Nicholson by submission. On the Fight Pass prelims, I have Mickey Gall over Mike Jackson by submission. Alex White beating Artem Lobov by decision. Ray Borg over Justin Scoggins by decision. And Noad Lahat beating Diego Rivas by submission. So that's it for my predictions for UFC 196, Verdun versus Miocic. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And, if you can support me and buy my book, The Mustard Prince and the Condiment Kingdom, for $8.95 at my website, that'll be greatly appreciated. So that's it for MMA for You. Thank you guys very much.